Well, welcome in. Welcome in. My name is Bryce Koon, and we are live here on a Sunday night to recap Georgia Tech's 24-14 win. Storm Talk brought to you by the Crowded Booth. Ralph Leary in the background. My name is Bryce Koon. We got a loaded show. We're going to open the phone lines at the end of it and let you get your thoughts in on the Jackets, that and more on tonight's episode. Swarm Talk brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. Coming on the Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Well, welcome in. Welcome in. My name is Bryce Koon. This show is brought to you by Section 103 each and every single week. This is the first time we've done one live on Sunday night, I feel like, in quite a while, or I just might be wrong. But it's been a minute. It's been a hot minute. Ralph Leary in the background. My name is Bryce Koon. Georgia Tech with a tough, hard-fought, hard-earned win against the Duke Blue Devils on Saturday night. You know, not a lot of drama in this one, I felt like, which maybe for Georgia Tech fans feels kind of nice, just in terms of what happened around the college football sphere throughout the entire season. But this is one where I think that you have to take a step back, realize you got the win, you move forward, and we keep going. A lot of comments already in here. Maxwell says, a stressful game to be at in person. Alex says, recap, Georgia Tech earns a tough win over Duke. Bryce Koon recaps Georgia Tech's tough win over Duke and what we learned about the Jackets coming out of the bye week. I believe that he just copied and pasted the about section of this video. Bruce, Aaron says, and Altima says, like the stream, boys. We appreciate it. Make sure you like that stream. Follow wherever you are. The number's climbing up here live. And it's a good thing, so make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Keep those numbers growing. And Nancy says, was an electric night at Bobby Dodd Stadium. It did look like it. It did look like it. Indeed. Yes. Okay, let's first off, Ralph, we got a new little overlay that our friends over at Section 103 sent us. So go ahead and throw that up there. Let's talk a little bit about our sponsor. If you have not already, I'm rocking the Ramblin' Wreck t-shirt, this little dry fit action. I cut grass in it the other day, and you need to make sure that you hop on the Section 103 train. You got to hop on that train, big dog. No loans. You can get a good deal right here today. It's the Crowded Booth for 10% off your first order. They do a fantastic job. They were a part of our fantastic tailgate there in week number 1. And keep an eye out for news. Maybe another tailgate here coming up very, very shortly. Well, not very shortly. In about a month, we'll say. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And Section 103 does a fantastic job. We love them. They're a great sponsor of our show. You need to check them out. They sponsor everything we do. The presenting sponsor of this Georgia Tech show each and every single week. Once again, that's on Sundays. Tuesdays, we drop our pre-recorded episode of Behind Enemy Lines. We'll have another one for you here, and a loaded weekend of content, by the way, against North Carolina. And then Thursday nights we go live and we talk about the game at hand. But that's Section 103. Ralph, bring it back to me. Okay, Section 103 does a fantastic job. Let's rock and roll. Numbers climbing up to the hundreds as we get ready for, just to recap a game. And I said this in the beginning. This wasn't college football was nuts yesterday. I personally loved it. I know the LSU fans down here in Baton Rouge love to watch it. You love to see it. My friend Ralph, he is, yeah. He's okay. It is what it is. Now, this is what we're going to do. Ralph, I do want you to start some comments because we're going to be opening up the phone lines here a little bit, and I want to get to some of these questions, but I also want you all to kind of listen to how I'm going to recap this, my thoughts. We're going to talk defense, we're going to talk offense, and then we're going to open up the phone lines for the last 10, 15 minutes of the show and let you get your comments. Let you get your comments in. So college football was nuts yesterday. Like, that is a foregone conclusion. Trevor says that Vandy's a tough place to play. Y'all don't forget. The construction really throws a lot of people off. So maybe that's in favor for Georgia Tech going forward, by the way. Just blow up part of your stadium, and maybe that's the key to getting big upset wins over the number 1 team in the country. All jokes aside, college football was crazy yesterday. Georgia Tech does not add to the craziness. They take care of business. that line, and Will Mannis had shot us a text, and Ralph, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That line creeped up to 10 points for Georgia Tech Duke. And Georgia Tech obviously covers, and good for them. Like, good for Georgia Tech. They covered, they win. A lot of the intricacies within the game that we can sit here and talk about on Sunday night. I went back and rewatched the game this afternoon, and just some different things that I think maybe nitpicky. Ralph has said that he took Duke plus 10. I don't think that that was a crazy bet, especially when you watch how the game played out. But let's kind of talk defense here first. So, Ralph, you can throw up that first banner over there. The defense, in my opinion, passes the test. I think that's the big takeaway for me, kind of going back and look at this game. Yes, there are things that you can point to. Yes, there are things that you can nitpick about. We can sit here and have conversations. I talked about it last Thursday night. Bottom line, the defense has passed the test. In a game where Duke wanted to run the football, you knew they wanted to run the football. You pretty much stymied their offensive attack, and in terms of what they do well. They said, "We do this well. We know you do that well, and it's best on best. Who's going to win?" And Georgia Tech ultimately won the battle. 20 carries in this one. They tried to throw the ball a little bit more, but 20 carries, 74 yards. Star Thomas, who Dr. Bob and other people had mentioned, that was the guy that, and JJ Jackson on our Locked On Blue Devils episode that we did, the little crossover action. They mentioned that this is a guy that has to get going in this game. And while Star Thomas was kind of, in my opinion, non-existent in that first half, he did flash a little bit in the second half, and he had some decent to nice carries, but he averaged only 3.4 yards per carry. You didn't let him bust a big one, obviously the 20-yard carry. But overall, this defensive line, and we have to talk about Jordan Vandenberg, anchored a group that kept a team in check with their strength. Now, that is the microcosm, the game within the game that Georgia Tech won. And I feel good about that. I like what they did up front defensively. They were able to create some havoc, to create some disruption. There weren't massive open running lanes. At times there were, but it wasn't consistent enough for Duke to take advantage. Now, sometimes it's going to happen. Sometimes the other group is going to make a play, and you have to tip your cap and you line up for the next play. Where the problem has kind of, is it lied or lay? The problem is lay, maybe? I don't know. Wasn't very good at grammar. Where the problem has been in previous seasons is that you would see too many blown assignments in the front seven, leading to being gashed. And this year, and Aaron says it right here, run D is the first in the SEC. It's 11th in the country. The 11th best rushing defense in the country. You're only giving up 87.5 yards per game. That will keep you in ball games. And like I said earlier, this is a Duke team that wanted to run the football. They tried to run the football, and you beat them at their strength, which is what we talked about was a massive key to this game. Make Malik Murphy beat you. Now, for all intents and purposes, I like what Malik Murphy brings to the table. He needs more polish. This is his first opportunity of really being able to play, not being yanked in and out of the lineup, and kind of having that free reign to be able to make mistakes and then go back out there the next drive. So that to me is super important. Now, David says, "Where is Will? He's never on the show." We'll let Will. Will had a big life update, so we'll let him share that. But Jordan Vandenberg was really, really impressive. Another key thing here for the defense was getting off the field on third downs. Remember how I told you that Duke was putrid, one of the worst in the country, one of the worst in the ACC, in converting on third down attempts, around 29%, I believe, coming into this game. You held Duke to 3 of 11 on third downs, and their average third down to go distance was 7.3 yards. So you were forcing the ball into the hands of Malik Murphy to be able to make plays in the passing game. Once again, I like Malik Murphy. I like the way this Duke team is set up. If Murphy becomes a more polished quarterback with Manny Diaz at the helm, they're impressive to me. They're impressive to me in year one. They're impressive to me in year one. So I really, really like what Duke has done. Regardless of what you think about the talent, if Malik Murphy becomes a better polished passer, that's a solid ACC team. But Georgia Tech knew that was the game plan going in. So hats off to Tyler Santucci. we have to not sell out, but we have to neutralize this run game. We can't let it beat us, and we have to force Malik Murphy to go out there and beat us. And he didn't, and he couldn't, and he didn't. And like I said, when you give a quarterback, a young quarterback in terms of playing experience, when you give him third and an average of 7.3 yards to go, yes, you can run some zone reads. The RPO opportunities are there, and that's where they did convert. You go back and look at the 3 conversions they had. But outside of that, it's a Georgia Tech defense that isn't very good in pass defense, but when you know it's coming, it allows you to be better. And so I was very, very impressed with the fact that they could get him into third and long situations. It's obviously a talking point. It's something you want to do. It's part of what's in the meeting room. It's part of what the media talks about. It's one of those key factors. Of course, you want to force the opposing team into third and longs, but the ability to go out there and execute that, folks, that's a far cry from what we've seen in past years. So that's a step in the right direction. Understand the assignment and execute the assignment. And that was something they did a very good job of. I was very impressed with that. We talked about third and longs, which is constituted as 3rd and 8 or more. They were 0 for 4. How many times in the past couple of years have we seen Georgia Tech give up massive third and long opportunities, backbreaking for a defense, and it keeps a defense that wasn't all that great to begin with out on the field for longer, creating and sustaining drives for the other team. Really, really, really like that. Love that. So over 4 on third and longs. I mentioned that the 11th best rushing defense in the country. Shout out Jess Simpson. He does a fantastic job. It's big. Now, here is something I also like. They're tied for 30th after coming out of this game in opposing third down conversion rate. Just 32.2% of the time are opposing teams converting on you. And then, something that and Ralph, maybe you can look this up for me. What was Georgia Tech's passing yards allowed average per game last year? Like, I think that's something, and I have it pulled up, so maybe we can sit here and see. But in 2023, like that would be something interesting because so far this season, you are 83rd in the country. You're allowing 225 yards through the air per game. Let's see what Ralph says right here. 215. So technically, the passing defense was better last year by 10 yards. But it just feels a little bit different, I would say. The defense as a whole is, even though the number is off a little bit, it feels different. Now, teams around you, this is also very interesting, I thought, as well. You have Clemson, okay? Yeah, hey, if you're in the same realm as where Clemson is as a pass defense, you feel pretty good about that. You're around, well, that's about it. That's impressive. Wyoming, Florida International, who has some fire jerseys, by the way. If you didn't see FIU's and Miami Vice jerseys, they're awesome. Florida is in that category. Colorado is right above you. And then Mississippi State, who you are tied with. And then the 3 teams behind you are Akron, Jacksonville State, and Will Mannis's favorite team, the New Mexico State Aggies. So those are the teams around you in that category. It's not great company, but here's the key difference. You can allow, folks, 215.8 last year. Okay, not bad. But as Ralph just pointed out in the private chat to me, last season, you allowed 221.3 yards per game on the ground. Brutal, atrocious, makes me want to throw up. You don't do that this year. Now you're top 15 in rushing defense. So it allows for this passing defense to have some grace. And we've seen the games that you have lost to, teams have been able to throw the ball. The games that you have won, what am I saying? Not even speaking correctly. The games that you have won, those teams don't really have passing attacks. The games you have lost, those teams do have passing attacks. An interesting trend just to monitor going forward. But we learned that Georgia Tech is good against the run. How much is that going to factor when you play a truly balanced offense? And you have to look and see who's truly balanced. And I'm asking the question because I don't think Georgia's very truly balanced. There's going to be some questions about who is truly balanced left to go on this Georgia Tech schedule. So interesting trend to follow. Now let's flip it over to the offense. Ralph said the defense passes the test. Let's go offense here. The questions still remain for me. So I want to give you, and I don't want to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's such an overblown kind of phrase. And to me, it's not ugly. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just puzzling. I guess we'll ask this. The good on this offense, wow. What wonders a bye week can do for your one of the best running backs in the conference to get healthy and to nurse a couple injuries and get back out there. Jamal Haynes is a weapon. I mentioned this last week. We expected this to happen. You lean heavy on Jamal Haynes, you win up a good ball game because he's explosive and he's healthy. Chad Alexander, walk on running back, doesn't seem to care that there's guys with a scholarship around him in that room because that kid's just performing. That's a really cool story. This running game needed to get healthy. I liked what we saw out of the interior of the offensive line. It clicked. Maybe they just needed the bye week to rest up, get the mental reset. You were able to run the football. And especially, and Dr. Bob might be able to point this out. I don't think he's in the chat tonight. But this dude defense, I know people say, well, they didn't play. That's a solid group. And Manny Diaz is one of the better defensive coaches. Oh, Ralph, I'm going to get, will I get drugged for this? Manny Diaz, top 15, top 20 defensive coach in college football. I feel like that's safe. That's not crazy. I mean, the guy knows how to coach defense. Now, I know at Penn State he had some straight up dudes, but he knows how to coach defense. And so, look, Duke played tough. They played physical up front. I really, really was impressed overall in the run game from the running backs. You now have a top 50 offense. You're now 42nd in the country. Gavin says top 10. It's a discussion. Like I was saying, you have a top 50 offense now. You are 42nd in the country. You average 434.5 yards per game. A lot of people are going to complain and say it doesn't feel like that, but you are, and that's okay. Another thing I really loved that was clean in the red zone. Inside the 20, you were perfect. 4 of 4 on your red zone opportunities. You have to capitalize when you get there. I think that's a big sticky note stat for you that they were able to win that category, win that battle, and it meant a lot. You dominated time of possession. Look, Duke's strength. What did we talk about 10 minutes ago? Duke's strength coming into this game was running the football and playing solid up front. You negated both of those. You controlled the clock. You didn't let them get the ball offensively, and you wore down their ultimate strength, which was a defense. Played the game to an absolute T of how you wanted to play it. So I said you dominated time possession. You had it for 39 minutes, 27 seconds. You did allow 6 tackles for loss, which, look, this offensive line for Georgia Tech has been good in pass pro. Look, Duke just schemed up really well. They don't have the guys up front that they had last year, but Manny Diaz is a solid coach, and I like that. It was very it was, in my opinion, it was a very well coached defense. And so you tip your cap, you say, hey, we played a good ball game in that sense. And then, like I mentioned, remember, Duke's average down and distance to go on third downs was 7.3 yards. Georgia Tech's 4.6. So you're talking about that third and medium opportunity and really kind of close to a third and short to where there's a lot of different options. Now, we can talk about the specific play calling, but once I'm talking about in the microcosm of the numbers and the stats, that sets you up to be very successful. Now, here's the thing that's puzzling to me. So that's all kind of the good things. The puzzling part to me is, and we talked about this, Duke was a team that only allowed 4.7 to 4.5 to 4.7 passing yards per attempt. So whether they're running, sorry, Mel Kiper, cover 2 or cover 3, some type of high shell formation with a deep safety, they're not going to let you go deep. And a lot of people have been screaming and yelling from the stands and yelling from the message boards and yelling from social media and, whatever you want to say. A lot of people have been doing that, complaining, why don't we just go deep? And I wonder, and I went back and watched the game today, and you could, and the best way to be told to be able to watch some type of all 22 tape. But I don't think Duke is going to give you that. I don't think at times that other teams have given you that. The way that teams are lining up against Georgia Tech, I think that this offense is taking what they give them. Now, you can be frustrated because Haynes King threw 31 passes. 21 of those pass attempts, 18 of which were completed, were under 5 yards. And I'm not talking about the ultimate gain was under 5 yards. The actual pass attempt was a 5 yard pass. So you're talking about a quick, curl route, a quick slant, a quick out, a screen pass. To me, I'd be very interested in, and obviously, you have to watch the game in real time, and it's something you would have to know going into the game. This is what I'm looking for, or you see it on all 22 tape after the fact. Are teams just lining up against Georgia Tech and forcing them to run the football, saying, "Hey, we are not going to let you get explosive on us. We are going to make you run the football and grind this out." Now, look, we know Brent Key. He was obviously all up in, all over social media. We're going to run the ball, and he yells it after the Florida State win. But then they get stalwarted in that, and they can't do much else. In the loss to especially the loss to not South Carolina, the loss to Syracuse. So is it dictated upon what the defense gives you? Maybe so. But 21 out of the 31 passes you're throwing and it's 5 yards or less in terms of the pass attempt. In my opinion, it's either has to be this is what the defense is giving us. That's the look they're putting out there, and that's the decision because it is a fair amount of RPO opportunities for Haynes King. The position that they're putting us in, that's what we choose to do. Or it might just be the style of offense they're running this year. That I can't tell you the exact answer to. So, I believe kind of going back that Duke, and like we talked about that, we knew coming into the game, Duke was not going to let you go explosive, go vertical on them. They only give up an average of 4.5 to 4.7 yards per pass attempt. Not completed, just pass attempt. So you knew you were going to hit on your intermediate, short to medium routes. Outside of that, they weren't going to let you do that. And partially due to a defensive line that could get after the quarterback. So maybe it's what the plan is. It does feel like, though, and I am with people, at some point you're going to have to stretch the ball down the field, especially in the games where you can't dictate things with a run. Because when you haven't been able to dictate the game, the flow of the game with the run, you've struggled mightily to do anything offensively. So a little bit interesting. It's a little bit weird to me. I do believe that Duke dictated what they wanted to do, and Georgia Tech took what the defense gave them. Good job by being conservative. You end up winning the football game. I think a lot of people are upset about it in terms they want to see the explosiveness that we saw last year. And just, let's be honest. The offense was fun to watch last year. On Saturday, it wasn't really fun to watch. And I can already see people say, well, it doesn't matter. They won. I wholeheartedly agree. I just think it's what teams are scheming up against you. That's what you do. We'll see, obviously, this week what North Carolina does if that continues. So, to me, it's not bad or ugly what this offense has done. It's just more of you take what the team gives you, you get a hard fought win against a solid football team. Folks, what was it, Tuesday when we released the Behind Him Lines podcast, we had people commenting that Duke was terrible and a horrible team. And I think that if we're really realistic, that was a quality football team that Georgia Tech beat on, Saturday night. That's a team that's going to go bowling. Look, they only have one loss in ACC play. So, I don't know. Like I have said, teams can evolve from week 1 to week 12. If Malik Murphy can find an ability to be a more polished passer, maybe it doesn't happen this year. That's going to be a fun team to keep an eye out on, and one that you have to look and say, hey, that team might win 7 or 8 games this year in year 1 under Manny Diaz. That's a good season for them, and that's a good quality win there for Georgia Tech. So I like that. I really, really like that. Okay, Let's talk though, and kind of go from here about kind of what's next going forward. Rap already on it. Then we're going to open the phone lines. So going forward, and we'll look. We are going to preview this game this upcoming week. But going forward with this team, with what's on the docket, the emotions are going to be high this weekend. Everyone and their mother knows it. This is going to be nuts. You go to Chapel Hill, your former head coach is the defensive coordinator. North Carolina has struggled, to say the least. I mean, they lost this past weekend. It's just a shell of what North Carolina typically is. So maybe that's a positive for them coming in this game because they've been favored the past couple of times you've played them. But I really do think kind of going forward in this contest is individually take it week by week. The win over Duke was hard fought. It was great. You enjoy it for 24 hours, you cleanse, and you come back and you rinse and repeat. Then now you kind of take an approach of where we are going to go win this football game. Where I think you get in trouble, I will say this, and I'm not going to, we'll touch on this a little bit throughout the week, but I'm not going to make it this. I'll leave it to Rec Talk. Love you, pal. Enjoy the game this upcoming weekend, by the way. Rec Talk's going up there. I understand the storyline that surrounds this game, the cloud that overhangs this game. It's a fun talking point for fans. It's going to be good for trash talk on social media. The players in the locker room will not, and I will tell you this, it should not make this a bigger event than it needs to be. Everyone knows it. There are still good relationships with players who were recruited by said coach that are still on this roster. Regardless of what you think as a fan about that guy gave them an opportunity, and there's a different type of relationship, and fairly probably a deeper one than you'll ever have with said head coach. So regardless of what you think about it, I mean, you can't make this a bigger moment than it is. You go up there, you take care of business. This needs to be a business trip for Georgia Tech. If you start playing into the emotions of what this game can be, I think that's where you get in trouble. And I'll be interested to see how this team handles that going on the road up there. So you play North Carolina this week. I mentioned if you could come out of this bye week 5-2 and roll it into, a game against Notre Dame and Mercedes-Benz where the opportunity for a win is definitely there. I'll be impressed. I'll be impressed, and we'll obviously kind of highlight that game as well. But North Carolina's on the docket now. You got to go win this football game. Take it week by week. Don't get caught up in the emotions of what this is. Make it a business trip. And then I'll say this too, offensively, and I'll kind of pose the question here, Ralph, and we will we're gonna do this. We're gonna open the phone lines here in just a second, Ralph. We can go ahead and throw that number up, and I'll open the phone line. My biggest kind of deal here is, and you can call the show 225-317-9613. At some point, this offense has to be explosive. I just don't think that you can beat the teams that you're not supposed to beat, per the Vegas odds, running the football. We will see. I don't know. That's just my take. We'd love to hear yours. All right, let's get the phone lines here. We've got our first caller of the evening. I got to make sure I remember how to do this. Thanks so much for calling in. You're watching Swarm Talk here on Sunday night. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, we live?
We're live. We are live here.
We're so live. Hey, Bryce, this is Trevor down in Savannah, Georgia. How we doing?
Trevor, I'm doing fantastic, man. A lot of people want to complain, but a win's a win. And 3 or 4 years ago, people would have been begging for Saturday's result.
I'm not complaining one bit.
I got you. Well, good. That's awesome. What you got for us?
Looking ahead to next week, yeah, we know the storyline. It's Collins. We talked about the run defense has been good. Can we contain Amari Hampton and Criswell? The quarterback at UNC reminds me of like a Taj Boyd type. Kind of a bigger physical quarterback, can run, will run. And then I have a hot take. Georgia Tech will win either one of the three, Notre Dame, Miami, or UGA.
Hey, look, first off, Trevor, I do agree with your kind of assumption about North Carolina. You can't feed into the emotions of the game, regardless of what you think. North Carolina still has some talent, no doubt about it. And Amarian Hampton is one of the best backs in the country. Like that, he just
Agreed.
is very good. And then to your second point here, wholeheartedly agree, because my preseason prediction was that Miami would roll in to Atlanta undefeated, and Georgia Tech would spoil that undefeated season. But we'll see what
Well, it
happens.
depends if the refs want to call a game fairly. Miami got a little collusion going on over there.
Yeah, that was. I will be honest with you. I watched the Virginia Tech game. I did fall asleep before the end of the Miami Cal game. I couldn't make it. I could not make it through that game.
After dark.
ACC after dark. But hey, Trevor, I appreciate you calling, brother. Thanks so much.
Take it easy.
Good call there from our friend Trevor. I believe he said he was over there in Savannah, Georgia. Make sure you call that line if you want to get your thoughts in. What do you think about the offense? I mean, I think that's the biggest talking point. And look, folks, I've said this multiple times, and we're going to go to the phone lines right back here in a second. We'd much rather be talking about pushing to the offense with a 4-2 record, and that's what we are than we were 3 years ago. Thanks so much for calling in. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Aaron Holland. I'm calling from Baltimore.
Aaron, my friend. When are you shipping out, my pal?
At least flat Tuesday. I go to San Fran and then San Fran, the Philippines.
I gotcha. And just for everyone knows, Aaron cannot tell us the name of his ship. That is classified information. He let people know that. Okay, from Baltimore, Aaron, you watched the game. Walk me through how you feel, and I'll ask you this question, but you can take it wherever you want to go. Your feelings on this offense, is it sustainable against better competition and more balanced competition?
I think it is. Be honest, the lack of explosive plays is definitely there, but if we're grounding and pounding, I take that any day of the week. You saw Duke up front. Haynes King, I'm pretty sure he finished less than 10 yards rushing. A lot of quarterback design runs didn't work, and then when he stepped up in the pocket, Duke always had a defensive lineman or linebacker there. So I think Duke did a really, really good job of containing Haynes King's dual threat ability. And you saw a lot of the times the O-line, Duke's D-line, in the pass rush, Haynes King always had to check it down anytime we had a design play to go deep, and there wasn't a lot of deep shot opportunity. You saw that one play where they threw it to Malik, and he saw 3 Duke defensive players around it. So I think Duke did a really good job of not letting Georgia Tech get any explosive plays.
And I will speak to that. Georgia Tech did have, and look, they quantify explosive run plays as gains of 10 yards more. Tech did have 9 of those, but to your point, a lot of it was Jamal Haynes, and in fact, one of it was just, or 2 of them were just. I'm sorry, one was just Haynes King, and a couple were Chad Alexander. But it was Jamal Haynes who had a great night, obviously a career night. But to your point, the passing game, Haynes King in the first quarter, an 18-yard pass to Bailey Stockton. In the first quarter, once again, he then had in the second quarter, he had the pass to Malik Rutherford, and then in the third quarter, he had the pass to Eric Singleton, which took him kind of closer to the or started that big drive there in the third quarter. So to your point, we're not seeing a lot of explosive plays in the passing game. But look, I guess my question is, are you going to be able to run for 200 plus yards on everybody you play? Because when you look at the rest of the schedule,
I think Miami.
Yeah.
After watching that Cal game, I mean, I was with you. I fell asleep watching that game, and I woke up day one. I was like, what the heck? And thinking about it, Duke's probably the best ACC defense that we're going to play all year.
Let's go through the ACC defense, because you're not playing Clemson, who I think has the best defense in the ACC. You're not playing. I mean, that's probably fair. I would say so. I mean, look, Duke's a good defense. I know that people kind of slept on who they played, but they did show, even in a loss, they showed, hey, that's a quality opponent, and Manny Diaz has them heading in the right direction in his first year. I give hats off to them. That's a solid football team.
Yeah. About the defense, I do think there is still some concern, because you saw in the second half, I think we had Taj and Hamilton out there, linebacker, and as soon as Duke saw that, they ran hurry up offense, and they were dashing. They were just gashing us. I think like every play, Taj was in the wrong hole. It was just bad. That's the concern for me because they did that twice where they had Taj and Hamilton out there on defense, and they were just running hurry up offense, gashing us.
You're right. So I remember the drive you were explicitly talking about here. You had, obviously, like you said, Taj Butler, the freshman. You had Jackson Hamilton out there. Look, I will say this. I think that you are better served having a kid like Taj Butler learn on the fly than having Kyle Eifert out there in pass coverage. He's just not a coverage linebacker. And I know you've agreed with that in the Discord as well. So, yes, it could be a concern. But frankly, they might just be in a spot where they don't have a great option right now to utilize. It might be Taj Butler next year, and he just takes his lumps this freshman year. Look, nothing against the kid. You cannot put Kyle Eifert out there in coverage. He got lit up against Louisville and Syracuse, and they picked on him. And if he would have been in the game for a wide amount of snaps in this one, he would have gotten picked on regardless. So it might just be a pick your poison at this point, Aaron.
I'd say move Kyle Eifert to edge next year. You're a Georgia fan. You know about Chaz. They recruited him to play linebacker, and he was just god awful slow. And compare how fast college football is evolving nowadays, and moved him to edge, and he seems a really nice player.
Aaron, I really appreciate that. That's going to end up on a message board somewhere. I do appreciate that. I love it. No, Aaron, appreciate you calling, man. We got another caller on the line, so I wanted to kind of get to it. Ralph says Bryce Koon, confirmed Georgia fan. Thanks so much for calling, Aaron. And brother, be safe on your deployment.
All right, you have a good one.
All right, let's go to another caller here on the line. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Dr. Bob from East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana.
Dr. Bob, I would have made the trip over to your house to watch the game, but I did have the in-laws in town this weekend. So, you got to.
We will catch a football game together at some point.
At some point, yeah. Maybe it'll be a Tulane playoff game. You never know.
Well, I don't know if we'd be able to host, but that'd be quite a party if John Summerall was able to, a home playoff game here. I know that we'd have to invite Mr. Leary down for that.
Leave me alone.
Ralph said, leave me alone. All right. Anyways, but no, yeah. Give me your thoughts on the game. What was your biggest takeaway? Look, you praised Duke. That was a solid team. No shame in only beating them by 10.
Yeah, we covered according to Vegas, and I spent 6 years up there in Durham. I was actually faculty there for a short period of my tenure there, so I've been around that program, and I know the investment that that Duke has made in the local community to get more fans out to the game. They really have started to develop a sidewalk following there in the city of Durham in particular, and I don't get all of the hate. I've followed both programs for a long time. I remember watching Duke and Georgia Tech in the early 2000s. This is not the same Duke program that was only winning, 1, 2, 3 games a year under Ted Roof. They have made a serious investment in facilities. They've made a serious investment in the stadium and technology and NIL, all that kind of stuff. I think Diaz is a great hire for them. And, I think he is in a much better position to succeed relative to what would be considered the bar of success at a place like Duke versus Miami. He's had coaching experience, and I think he's going to be very successful for them. I took a look at Duke's schedule this year, and I was like, this is a team that could realistically win 8 football games in the ACC, and I think they're on track to do that. So this is actually a really quality win. I would actually say this is probably our first quality win of the year, considering what's happened to Florida State. And say what you want about the offense. We've scored more points on Duke than anybody else has so far this year. And I agree. I think they probably have the second best defense in the ACC after Clemson. So the fact that we were able to run for well over 200 yards on this defense, and especially being able to flip the script on what Duke has done in the fourth quarter. They had outscored opponents 40-6 entering this game in the fourth quarter, and to be able to outscore them 14-0 and seized control of the game late, I thought was really critical, and I think it shows a lot of maturity in this program. I don't. A lot of our fans may have amnesia, but just 2 years ago, prior to Brent Key being named interim, we wouldn't even be in this game against a team like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize how far the program has come in the 2 years that Brent has been at the helm. And, I think that going forward, North Carolina is obviously a key game. They're kind of reeling at the moment, having lost 3 straight. I don't think there's a lot of answers in Chapel Hill other than the fact that I think Matt Brown is not going to be back as the head coach there this time next year. And so if we can go out and we can get a win against Carolina and Chapel Hill, push our record to 5-2, I think 7-5, which I said at the beginning of this year against this schedule, would be a step forward. I think is certainly within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to go back, just rewind real quick what you just said. Duke could be an 8-win team, and we're talking about a 9-win with a bowl win. I mean, that's a quality win. And Manny, I know this is not a Duke show, but I texted. We did the crossover episode with JJ Jackson of the Locked On Blue Devils, and I texted him and I said, "Look, man, that's a good football team. And if I'm a Duke fan, like I'm excited because I know you were kind of nervous and worried about would there be a massive drop off. And I'm excited because look, if Malik Murphy can put it together, and I'll say this, if he had a little more polish, and it's not his fault, he hasn't played a lot of football. It feels like he's been around for a while. He just hasn't played a lot of football and been able to make mistakes and not get yanked out. If he has more polish in that game on Saturday, we could be talking about a really tough loss. And on the other end of the pendulum here with Georgia Tech, I mean, Duke could have won this football game fairly, I don't want to say handedly, but by more than just one score, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think what really favored us in this game, and what's different than what Duke has been the past couple years, and what I think they're really missing right now, Malik Murphy can certainly hit the deep ball, but he's not consistent enough at doing that. And what Duke is really missing in the offense this year is the mobility that Riley Leonard gave them in sort of the RPO and then even just design quarterback run game. We did not have to worry about a scrambling quarterback. And I think that really, really helped our defense yesterday, not having to prepare for that particular element, because I think that is probably Murphy's weakness right now, other than the lack of polish. But I think that is something that they'll get corrected over time up there in Durham. But I think overall just a solid, tough, hard-fought game. And you saw Coach Key and Coach Diaz there at midfield at the end of the game. There was a lot of mutual respect. Both of them, I think, realized it was a hard-fought football game. But overall, it was a pretty clean game. There wasn't a lot of shenanigans other than maybe a little bit of gamesmanship on the defensive delay of game penalties. But overall, I mean, it was just it's a hard-fought, well-contested football game against two teams that I think are on the come-up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for calling in. I'm sure we'll get you back on the phone lines on Tuesday night.
Yep, sounds good. Take care, Bryce.
And look, Dr. Bob, a lot of good thoughts right there, and I think that was really good to hear. All right, let's go back to the phone line. Just a couple more before we round out. We got some starred comments I want to get to here in just a second. Thanks for calling in. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Will from Columbus, Georgia.
Will, how you doing, brother? Someone asked about 40 minutes ago, where is Will? He's never on this show.
Well, that would make sense. I'm never on Swarm Talk.
Yeah.
Is this my first Swarm Talk appearance?
It might be.
I think it is.
It might be. What are your thoughts here? Gavin says who?
Well, I'll tell you this. I did not watch Georgia Tech game. Had quite a busy weekend. But I'll say this. The line closed at 10. Good for Tech to push. I mean, if the line didn't move, Tech would have covered, and I couldn't have been more wrong. Like I said, I didn't watch the game, but I was tracking it, checking the score, seeing some stats. Saw Duke hit some explosives, so still some things to clean up for Tech in the back end on defense. But that's about all the analysis I can give.
Well, and two, look, I mean, look, we saw chaos across college football. So I think when what we're seeing right now, where it's literally just win, like win any way you can, and move on. And this, I will say this: Georgia Tech fans need to stop thinking that everyone else is bad. And dude, that's a good football team, and dude, like that's a solid team. Manny Diaz, Will, you and I said it literally 3 or 4 months ago. He's going to have this Duke team playing physical, well disciplined football.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. We knew what they were going to have on the defensive side of the ball with him coming in, and being with a defensive background. The question mark was on offense, and we talked about it. They got a first-time play caller for him coming over from SMU. We know he calls plays at SMU, but why is Will?
I don't know.
I'm watching the show on a delay, so I don't know what that comment was.
Yeah, George, what do you mean? Why is Will? Can you explain?
Ralph is in the dark.
Yeah, I don't. What's happening here? I mean, we're going to get demonetized if we show that for too much longer. But yeah,
tomorrow? I mean, yeah, just win. It's just win at this point, and some teams have fallen victim to that. I think we've talked about it on the other shows of the regular season doesn't matter as much. And, I think Alabama kind of fell victim to that, won that big game against Georgia and came out and sweat-walked, I guess, for most of the game against Vanderbilt, and it cost them the game. So
yeah,
that was what you and I, we've talked about it. What we worried about is the regular season not mattering as much, and I think we saw that this week.
Yeah. No, it is. Real quick question for you. We got a live question here for you, Will. Gavin Hart, I believe he's out of Columbus, Georgia. He asked, ask Will if he likes Panda Express.
Dude, yeah. I can get on that train, big dog. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Not a sponsor, but we wouldn't mind it. I'd take a little free meat combo. All right. Thanks so much for calling, Will. We can't wait to talk college football with you tomorrow night, pal.
Yep. Looking forward to it. See you then.
That's Will Manis, the college football show where we talk about that. George says Guardians of the Galaxy. George, I don't know what you're talking about. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm not sure what he's talking about. All right, Ralph, before we get out of here, we're going to keep the phone line open. I did want to get to those starred comments real quick before we end the show. So let's go roll through those really, really quick here. Okay. Bing bong, bing bong. Colton Ham. I don't believe I've seen you comment before, so welcome into the show, Colton. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. He asked, Do you believe Buster has become too predictable and conservative with his play calling coming off of last year? Colton, I did mention last week that I do in fact believe that this Duke team probably went into game planning, and a lot of other teams knew what Georgia Tech was going to run. I feel like the book has been out. There's enough data points. There's enough film to say, okay, we know what he's going to draw up. And Georgia Tech kind of ran into a wall trying to do some of these things in their 2 losses, in my opinion. The conservative aspect, I still honestly believe, and I'll just say this, still honestly believe that it's more of what the defense is giving you. So has it become too predictable? Yes. Conservative wise, not, I don't know. I'm not so sure there. So Colton, I appreciate you tuning in, pal. Let's keep rolling. Ralph, I'll just go through these because I'm on this screen, so it's fairly easy for me to do it. Trevor says, we already got to that one. Santucci has addressed our biggest flaw in defense last year, which was run D. Great. We need to create more turnovers and sacks. You do. I believe it was Aaron who in the Discord. Make sure you should join in if you haven't already. I believe Aaron did say that. What did Aaron say? There had been an interception. They got one. That's what Aaron said. So, yeah. Wow, this is tough. Tough break there for Sam Lord. Sam, can't wait. I can't wait to get Sam on the show on Tuesday night. That's going to be a lot of fun. We will be talking Arkansas's massive upset over Tennessee. That's big ups for the people in Little Rock. So, Ralph, keep kind of going through these because I'm losing track of what's happening here. Brandon James says, why do we run so many bubble screen passes? I understand every once in a while, but it seems like we run them pretty frequently, almost like they don't trust the downfield passes. Brandon, I'm going to go back and watch, but what I will tell you is I do believe this is what the defense is giving you. I do think they fall in love with it a little too much, so maybe halvesies. We'll go halvesies here. You know how sometimes, Brandon, you can order halvesies fries, where you get halvesies curly fries and halvesies regular fries, or you can get tater tots and fries. I'm going halvesies, Brandon. That's what I think. Just my opinion. Just one man's opinion. Brandon also says, almost like they don't trust Haynes with the downfield passes, and then he goes, so you agreed the offensive play calling is just bland, a lot of bubble screens mixing with some runs. Yeah, it hasn't innovated beyond what they did last year. And I think a lot of people were excited. And look, a lot of people thought that Haynes King was going to be a top 10 quarterback in the country because this offense was going to be able to explode with another year here of him under center and another year of him with the with the offensive coordinator and the staff in place. And it just isn't. It isn't. Ralph says, Sam, this is Swarm Talk. Not Rocky Flop. Ralph, I didn't deserve that during this trying time. It's okay, man. Tennessee's still a title contender in my book. Albert Scott says it's real Mike Bobo-ish. That might be. Hal says Buster's taking what they gave him. They schemed to stop what we do, and he adjusted the screen game. Yeah, I mean that. Once again, it could be a lot of those things. Ralph, is that all of ours? I believe that is all of ours. The starred comments tonight. Hey, we appreciate so much everyone for tuning in. Over 200 people watching live. I was told no more than 30 people watch this show, and that's just not true. It's just not true. We appreciate you watching. Let's go ahead and get that call to show. Once again, a reminder for you: tomorrow night, same time, same place, right here on the channel. We'll be talking college football as a whole. The ACC. Impressed with SMU. I like them. Pony up. That's impressive. Clemson, beats Florida State. What is going on in college football? Anchor down. Go Doors. Diego Pavia for the Heisman Trophy. Give it to him right now. Ralph disagrees, but it's okay. It's okay. My name is Bryce Koon. Ralph Leary in the background. We appreciate it. George says the potato cakes at Arby's is really good. Never had them. Is that a breakfast item? I don't even want to know if Arby's serves breakfast. That makes me want to throw up. If they keep Haynes in the game in the red zone, his stats will be elite. Thanks for the stream and the coverage, Ashton Gianti. I don't care what his name is. He's a good football player. Thanks so much for watching. Over 200 people watching live. Make sure you hit that sub button. Make sure you like the video. And Maxwell will beat me up if I don't say this. Make sure you support the channel in any way. Become a member of the channel. Completely awesome thing for you to do. Just get your comments up earlier, and we will do that. Roast beef at 7 a.m. is nasty work. A lot of different ways you can take that. We appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.